I think. Can you hear us for the audience? Hello. Hey guys. Yeah, I was muted, but it was a technical problem. Always good to have a bit of stress at the beginning of conference. Okay, maybe we'll wait a minute for everybody to connect. Perfect. Thanks. Amazing. So maybe a few words before we start, and Barry starts actually. So everyone, and thanks if you're here since this morning. I think it's been an amazing day. A lot of amazing expertise by a lot of different people. I think it's a great success. Thanks for all the speakers. Also thanks to you guys because you're here in the audience, and without you, this event is nothing basically. So a big thanks to you all. And I have the chance to be with Barry today. I think we all know Barry Schwartz. Is a figure in our ecosystem. Barry, do you want to say a few words before we start?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me at this event. I'm going to go through some type of question and answer session with a bunch of slides. So looking forward to answering some questions you got here. So if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A, I think, and I'll hopefully be able to answer them somehow in this interface. So hopefully I won't make any mistakes here, but if I do, apologize in advance.
You will not, I'm sure. Okay, so we are a lot of us here during the event. So if you have any technical issues, just let us know. We have some moderators within the chat to help you guys. One option is also to refresh your browser. Often it will help. But if you have any more complex issues, just let us know. We'll do everything we can to help on that part. As it will be a Q&A session, Barry will answer some questions, but he will also answer to some of your questions at the end of the session. So feel free to ask your question to everything that Barry's talking about, everything related to that. And I think Barry has an amazing expertise to share. So yeah, that's the moments. If you have any questions, just let us know. We are, as I said, a lot of us right here. So of course, be as respectful as possible. That's so important. I think we are a great community. So let's show that. And I think I have one word to say about Barry. And here we are. Stage is yours. And I will leave the stage. Thanks.
Oh, excellent. Looking forward to this. All right. So feel free to ask questions along the way. I have my slides over here. So I guess I'll just click on them and they should just go to the next one. That looks like a picture of me when I had less gray hair and more hair, but now I have a lot of gray hair. So there, let's move on to the first question. The first question that was asked is, how do you see AI, particularly generative AI, shaping SEO landscape in the next 5 years? Will it replace certain SEO tasks entirely? So I see AI shaping things in like a bunch of ways. I guess let's go through 3 ways specifically. One, it will probably help you do your SEO tasks. It will probably automate a bunch of SEO tasks that you're working on, like title tag generation, alt tag, structured data. Like you could use the AI to help you automate a bunch of stuff that you might not want to do on a day-to-day basis when it comes to SEO. It won't necessarily replace all the higher level, smarter SEO tasks that you might need to do, but it will probably help you automate some of the more routine stuff that you do on a day-to-day basis, like just like programmatic SEO, but in a smarter way with AI. So that's one. I think 2 is it will probably help you build richer and probably deeper content, images, content, video. I know just yesterday, Adobe announced a bunch of new AI video tools, which would be, I signed up for the beta. Hopefully I'll get access soon. But I've been using a lot of AI, not for my content, but more so for the images, the headlines images that I use for my content, because I'm writing about SEO. And it's always hard to get like a Google robot doing a dance on the street when you're talking about some local SEO stuff. So I could now create a robot doing that. And it was really hard to find images that suited my very technical, specifically my technical topics that I'm talking about. So I'm having a lot of fun generating images that are fun, creative, and on topic to the topic that I'm talking about. So soon I'll be able to create videos that are entertaining. Soon I'll be able to, maybe people use it to improve their content. I know a lot of people use it for ways to say, how can I expand my piece of content going forward. So it's a really great way to kind of expand your content and so forth. Sorry, I have a little cold. Apologize. And probably the third way is going to how it's going to change like the SEO landscape is by Google and other search engines coming out that use AI. So you have AI overviews in Google search. Google just announced just a couple minutes ago, actually, Google Shopping with AI researched topics. AI is everywhere in search. Google, Bing is using it with Copilot. You have Perplexity. You have ChatGPT coming out with SearchGPT. So we have a lot of these search engines that are utilizing AI, and how that's going to actually impact your job. It's not going to just be the 10 blue links, the traditional search results. It's going to be AI engines, and how are you going to get traffic from these AI engines? Now, search engines are figuring it out, obviously, as we figure it out. But this stuff will change over time. So yeah, there'll be 3 fundamental ways on how AI, I think, changes SEO landscape in the next 3 years. 1 is how you do your tasks. 2 is how you create content and images and so forth. And 3 is this AI in general. Okay, so moving on to the so yeah, definitely go ahead and ask those questions in the chat, and hopefully we'll get to them soon. I think we already have 2 questions. I guess I should answer them at the end. So I'm going to go to the next question, and feel free to continue to add those questions to the chat. All right, and I think we got about an hour for this, so I'll go to 11:30 Eastern. I'm not sure what time zone we're in by you guys locally there. Next question. With the rise of tools like ChatGPT and AI-based content generators, how can businesses ensure the content still stand out and provide unique value in a sea of AI-generated content? And again, everybody's chatting in I think it's French. I don't know it, so hopefully you guys are. I don't know what you're saying, so I'll just pretend to know. I'll just shake my head. Anyway, with the rise of those tools, so how do you compete really? How do businesses like stand out? And that's a really tough thing. So think about the way I write content. I don't see why AI can't just replace me. I don't know why there can't be just an AI Barry or AI anything, because what I do is basically like this person said that in the community, that person said this in the community, and here's what we said in the past about this topic. Here's what we said. Here's how it might impact us in the future. So I think it's very easy for AI tools like ChatGPT to go ahead and replace content that I built. So how do you safeguard yourself? How can I be safe in the future? I'm probably not safe in the future, but if I wanted to go ahead and like compete in the future, I think there has to be levels of like different, like a human personality to it. Now, a lot of these AI engines are becoming more and more human. That being said, I think you have to think about how can you entertain. YouTubers are really good at this. How can you add an entertainment factor to your content? Kind of easy to do on videos. Obviously, video AI generation is coming out soon, but could you come up with ways to entertain? Can you tell a story with your content? Do you have a personality with your content? Now, people ask me, why don't I use AI for my content? Whenever I've tried it, I try to use AI for my content, it just rips out the personality that people know how I write. They see this as a piece of content. They know I wrote it, especially if they've been in the industry for a few years. They know this is written by Barry and this is not. And if I go ahead and write a piece of content and then throw it through ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or any of these tools, people are going to know it's not me. It's not my personality. So I think a personality in your way of writing is very important for you to connect with your users. And third thing is unique thinking. These AI engines only know what was done in the past. It doesn't know what is future thinking or future thought. So I think those 3 things is 1, entertain, 2 is have your personality, and 3, think about something that's unique that hasn't been thought about before. I think that's the way really to kind of provide unique value in this sea of AI generated content. All right, next question. Hopefully I'm not going too quickly, but we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. With Google's core updates being a major focus of my reporting, how do you foresee these updates evolving over the next decade, especially in the context of AI? Interesting question. Again, just a reminder, if you are posting questions, try to put them in the Q&A tab, I believe. This way we can get to it later. All right, so it's a good question. This whole AI topic around Google algorithm updates and so forth, Google is taking the stance that AI specifically is not against their algorithms, not against their policies. You could go ahead and use AI, and Google's not going to go ahead and penalize you just because you are using AI. It's not something that the Google algorithms are specifically looking for what I understand. It's not something that a core update might say, oh, is this AI written or not? Is this AI generated or not? Google says numerous times they don't care. What they do care about is, obviously, is the content helpful, useful, etc. But more importantly, on the spam side, they care is this AI tool being used in a way to manipulate our search engines? Is it this AI feature, this AI tool being used in a way to flood our search results with content that might not be of value? Are you using the AI tools to go ahead and, to spam our search engines? And that's what Google and the search engines care more about than is just are you using AI. A lot of people use AI to improve their content. That's okay. But if you're using AI to go ahead and programmatically automate methods to go ahead and produce content in a way that will just flood Google search, that's something that's going to be against Google's algorithms. And then you also have to think about it's more about the content, not necessarily how it's produced. Like I said before, it's not because you're using AI that Google's going to have a problem with it. It's more about why are you making this content, not necessarily how it's produced. Another thing is core updates in general, outside of AI, is just a risk for all websites in general. So there's tons and tons of websites that are complaining even today. Like this algorithm updates are insane. Google has released their August core update back in August. They finished in early September, I believe, if I remember correctly. And even through October 15th, today's October 15th, the algorithms are the ranking volatility is just insane. People are every day saying, my rankings are going up, my rankings are going down, I'm getting no traffic, I'm getting less traffic. It's horrible for a lot of publishers, and it's really sad to see. And these core updates are a risk for any publisher, no matter how big you are, except for Reddit, maybe, because Reddit has this content deal with Google. But all jokes aside, any of these risks could be a huge reward or a huge way to reward your own website. Obviously, there's only a certain number of 10 top 1, top 2, top 3 results. One website gets deranked or goes to position 10 from position 1, maybe your website could go ahead and rank there. So that's one thing that you could think of a risk. Is also could be a reward for you. The other thing we see is like sites that are doing good can also be hit. There's nothing you could do about it. Like you could I know people who have the heart in their content, who are producing content with all the things that Google says you should do, and still their content is being hit by these algorithm updates, which is really sad, and it's really sad to see this. So it's a pretty big concern, and I think you just have to be aware that sometimes you could be hit by it. My site has been hit by Google core updates and previously Penguin updates, more Panda updates, and previous updates before they were actually named updates. And I just kept doing what I did. I just kept producing content, and I built an audience outside of Google. And now I still rank fairly okay, not as well as some other sites in the space, but I rank fairly okay. And my audience, especially the more, I guess, savvy, the more devoted SEOs, tend to go to my website and read the stuff that I write. So I think you need to kind of figure out a way to diversify as well. And when you are doing well, like a lot of sites, we did well, we were like making so much money, save that money. It's like an insurance plan. Make sure you save that money so that if you do hit hard times where you get hit by an algorithm update and you need to wait months, sometimes 3 months, sometimes 6 months with this helpful content update, some people are waiting 14 months for their sites to recover, that you have some money in the bank that you can keep your staff on board and continue to do well. And then obviously, like I said before, diversify your traffic. I said build newsletters, build up your newsletter email list, build up your social media channels, build up your YouTube channel, build up anything where you can diversify your traffic so that if you do get hit by an algorithm update and you cannot depend on Google sending you traffic, that you can go ahead and send out emails send out a daily email newsletter or a weekly email newsletter, be public on social media, post content in other areas and so forth. And then I think that should help you overall with Google core updates, because you can never really be safe. I've seen sites that were doing everything right and still got hit by these algorithm updates. I'm not sure if I should be looking at the questions right yet. So if I should, definitely call me out in the chat, but I think I'm going to move on to the next question here. Given the rise of AI and alternative search engines, do you think Google's dominance in search will ever seriously be challenged? It's a great question. I think Google's worried about it. Tell you a story. back in like 2004, 2005, I wrote a blog post saying Google is dead. Google's done for. And why did I write that? I said because Microsoft was coming out with their own search engine. I think they called it like MSN Search or something back then. And back then, Google did not own the browser. There was no Chrome. Google did not have Android. There was no mobile phone. Microsoft owned the browser. They had Internet Explorer. That was the #1 browser on the planet. They also controlled the operating system. It was Windows. Nobody was really on Mac then. Nobody was on, there was no Android, there was no Chrome. They owned everything. And I thought Google is doomed because all they need to do is make their, Microsoft, all they had to do was make their default search engine MSN Search, and Google's doomed. And what happened was people typed into MSN Search Google, and they went to Google, and they searched for Google, and they searched at Google. And I thought, it just proved me wrong that generally, if people are happy with a search engine, they'll stay with it no matter if there are defaults. Now, I still think Google's feeling very, very concerned about alternative search engines, especially these socials, these AI-based search engines. So yes, I think there will be serious challenges for them going forward. There's also TikTok, which they cited in their the press releases and their earning statements and so forth, that's a factor, and people are using TikTok every day and getting answers from TikTok. 3 is like there's ChatGPT and SearchGPT. That's a big thing that is concerning Google, and that's why they went very fast with their AI overviews. You have Bing coming out with Bing Chat, which is now Copilot. You have Perplexity, which is causing a lot of stir, and I think also Apple Intelligence, aka Siri and Apple Intelligence. Even though Apple's taking a different approach to this, where they're saying they're using AI to say which AI search engine should I use? Should I use Google Shopping? Should I use Yelp? Should I use ChatGPT? Should I use Perplexity? Apple's going to be the gatekeeper of where the search goes based on its own intelligence, its own AI, which is so interesting to me. But Google is still dominant. I know when Microsoft, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, got on stage almost 2 years ago now, with and announcing his partnership. I was sitting in the audience in Seattle, and the guy sitting right in front of me was Sam Altman. Nobody really, knew him back then. And Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, called him up on stage, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to make Google dance. We're going to make Google dance." And everyone's laughing, and they saw what Bing Chat, now Copilot, had to offer through OpenAI's partnership, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, Google has a real concern." But if you look at the market share data, Google really has not lost any significant market share at all. Microsoft really hasn't gained significant market share at all since launching this. If anything, it was like, not real. I mean, you saw the recent data. There was some report from Wall Street Journal, and Rand Fishkin from SparkToro did analysis of it and said they really didn't lose market share. So I don't know. I mean, Google still is dominant, and what will take that away from Google, I don't know. And they are moving fast on AI. In fact, ChatGPT, the T in GPT, is something that Google invented. It's a transformers. So Google is pretty advanced when it comes to their AI. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Google's getting a lot of bad press recently. I think more of an issue for Google is the Department of Justice, and then potentially, and looks like it's likely that they're going to be broken up. They're going to pull out Android, Chrome, ads potentially. So we'll see what happens there. It is a bit of a concern for Google. So we'll see what happens there. And I think they are threatened more so by the Department of Justice. Let's move on to the next slide. All right. What we got here? All right. So how has the SEO community changed over the years? What role do you believe SEO events and forums play in shaping the future? So I absolutely love the SEO industry. It's just amazing. I have obviously my heart's in the SEO industry. So let me tell you, I've been in the SEO industry since like early 2000s, like 2001, 2000. I forgot the exact date. I was very involved in the forums, and we had these online forums. People would go to like, obviously Webmaster World's still around, but like Jim's World and SEO chat forums and all these old forums. They were basically online discussion forums, which is great. We all knew each other. It was a really small space. And as we became more and more of a community, we started to have these like these in-person events. Online events weren't really possible back then. We had our forums to go online and talk with each other. We all met each other in person. There were different names in the industry. Like you would call each other, like there was Web Gorilla, which is Greg Bozer. You had people call each other by their actual AKA names. Nobody really used their their names. In fact, just to tell you a story, at Webmaster World, Google wanted to participate in it. And he didn't want to use his own name. This guy named Matt Cutts. You might have remember Matt Cutts. So instead of using his real name, he used the name Google Guy. And he would never confirm that Matt Cutts was Google Guy until years and years later. But everybody kind of knew it was Matt Cutts, but nobody really knew for sure because nobody really used their, I went in the name RustyBrick, which is my company. Everybody used aliases. Now everybody uses their real names because of Facebook and so forth. Except if you're on Twitter or X, people might troll you with fake names. But yeah, the SEO community has definitely changed from the online forum days. We're a much bigger community, massive now. Not everybody knows everybody in the industry. Most people don't even know, like people could be working in industry and don't even know me. And I get emails from people like clients and say, this is a great article you should read. And I'm like, I wrote that. And they would have no idea. It's funny because we're such a big community. Nobody really knows who each other are. And there's so many more communities. It's not just like you're on 5 or 6 online communities to go to. Now there's obviously online forums, but you have Slack channels, which are huge. You have Twitter, X, you have Facebook, you have TikTok, you have unlimited communities. You have these online, you have all these sessions and so forth. So there's a lot of online communities, much more out there, very regional, specialized. You have technical SEO, you have content SEO, you have regional SEO conferences. So it's a lot more in terms of the community. And then it's very corporate. It's not like back in the old days, like a bunch of us we were working in our basements trying to rank well for different affiliate scams and make a lot of money just doing nothing with almost no cost. It's very professional. Lots of VPs or presidents of SEO in the industry. There's lots of massive Fortune 500 companies have SEO departments. So we're a legit business now, although we keep getting called out as being not legit by different publications. And YouTubers, just yesterday we had a video from a bunch of YouTubers calling us out. And then many SEOs just don't go to events and don't go to forums anymore. They just do their day-to-day job. They're being told what to do by their bosses, and they just go through the forum. Maybe they have some type of online tutorial that they go through. COVID really took a lot of events that were in person. They took them online. Like one big event that I'm part of, XMX, we've been pretty much online. There's been not an in-person SEO XMX event, at least in the US, since that. Hopefully that will change in the first person. But there are some online in-person events like PubCon's going on this week. So we'll see. Things have changed over the years. So I think the community has changed significantly with that. And some of that is COVID, and some of that is just we've become more legit of an industry, more of a professional industry, I guess you want to call it that. All right. Again, just a reminder, make sure to post your questions in the Q&A, not necessarily in the chat, but feel free to chat as much as you want in there. But yeah. Moving on. Next question. Do you believe search engines should be more transparent about their algorithms? If so, what would be a potential trade-off for businesses and users? So one is Google might have to. According to the Department of Justice, they are considering that Google actually has to give over their trade secrets, like their data, their algorithms, and so forth to competitors, which is mind-boggling in an industry like this. It's like Google's trade secrets. So they might have to, but do I believe they should? I don't believe they should. It's their trade secret. They worked hard on this. They spent a lot of money. I mean, Google spends a tremendous amount of money and resources, more than anybody else. I know Microsoft has a much smaller team working on Bing. Google puts so much of their resources on this, and I don't think Microsoft or Google or Perplexity or ChatGPT should have to give up their trade secrets. I don't believe that. But again, there's a lot of people who disagree with me. It's more of a political question, I guess, than anything else. The bigger question is, what happens if they do? I don't know. I think it's a lose-lose situation for them. Google's been in the old days, Google said nothing. They absolutely told us nothing about anything. It was like they had their algorithms. They never spoke to us pre-2001 or so. We used to make up our own names for their algorithm updates, the Florida update and various names from different updates. Some of you may remember the Florida update. That wasn't named by Google. That was named by us. And we just made these things up because we saw how Google was changing. Then Google started telling us stuff. And as Google told us stuff, we're like, wait, if Google told us this, maybe they should, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? And we had more and more questions. And the more I think Google shares with us, the more I think we want to know more, which Google doesn't always want to share with us. And two, the more we feel they're lying to us. And they have been lying to us. Obviously, the Department of Justice uncovered so much information. Maybe you will call it a lie. Maybe you call it they were trying to protect their trade secrets. I don't know. But I think the more they share with us, the more they lose, the more we don't trust them, the more we don't believe them, the more we question things. And I think it's just a kind of lose-lose situation for them to actually tell us stuff. Now, I know people disagree with us, but I've been covering them for a long time. And I think the more they share, the more they get in trouble. So we'll see. I mean, it's a tough situation. Of course, I am all for sharing. There's nobody probably who's shared more SEO content to the community than I have. Nobody has linked to more people than I have in the SEO world. But when I come, I think it's just they're a business, and I think that they just lose more than they gain by sharing, which is upsetting. I wish they wouldn't. I love when they share information publicly, but I don't think it's beneficial to them. All right, and I think this is the last question, so to give us some significant amount of time for Q&A, hopefully. And I can always go through the questions in the public chat if you have more, but I see we have 23 questions. So keep good questions coming. The next question is, as the web becomes increasingly saturated with content, how do you see SEOs and content creators standing out in this environment? And what role does quality play over quantity? All right, good question. I think a lot of this I answered in number 2, which was about how to compete with the AI stuff, because there's more and more content coming out, and much of that has to do with not just more writers, but more tools for those writers to actually write. So like I said back then, it was become entertaining, have your personality, think uniquely. Those are the things that I would go ahead and think about this in terms of having your content stand out. It's the same thing of having your content stand out with AI engines. And what is the role of quality over quantity pay? And yeah, I think everybody's going to be able to do quantity. Quantity is not going to be hard. Now, I write a tremendous amount in SEO. I don't think anybody writes more than me. I'm probably going to hit 50,000 pieces of content soon in SEO in the past 20 plus years, which is a lot. That's why I have so much gray hair. But I do think quantity is important, but also speed is much more important. And I think quality of that speed is becoming even more and more important. Back in the old days in 2003, if you read stuff I wrote, it would be it's embarrassing for me to read the stuff I wrote in 2003. It was like a 1-paragraph thing, no images, no links. And then as I got better at it, and the benchmark of what I had to produce became higher, then I started maybe adding 2 paragraphs with links. And then I maybe started to add images and then screenshots and then videos. So the content quality has to become better and better and better over time. And I think that's something that people just learn to do, but also the audience expects that of you. And I think AI can help you with that, but it's not going to do it all for you. Okay, so I think that answers all the questions. Let's go into the questions and answers, right?
Hey, Barry. I'm here to help you to choose the question because we have so many questions for the audience. So we can do that. I'm going to ask you a question and you can answer to that. We have so many questions about AI, so maybe we can start with that. There is a question from Emmanuel that says, do you think AI review will be maybe the biggest flop ever in the SEO industry? What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think there's people who think that. I don't know. I think the whole Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, more like the blockchain stuff was more of a flop for people. Although it's used in many good use cases, but I think it was bigger than people expected. I think AI is going to be as big as people think. It didn't make Google dance. It did make them Google dance, but it didn't make their market share. It made Google make AI overviews and release what they were not wanting to release as soon as they released it, sooner than they wanted to, if that makes sense. But I don't think it's going to be a flop. I think people are expecting AI to be a big deal. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's big. So I don't think it's going to be a flop.
Yeah, that's I think a good answer. You mentioned quality a lot of time during your answers to the question. But to you, what's the definition of quality content from a Google standpoint, of course?
I don't know. That's rough. I mean, it's really rough. It depends on your audience, I think, more than what your audience expects from you. And that's kind of like a fluffy answer. But I mean, it just drives me insane. I'll read, if I wrote fluffy articles that didn't get to the point, my audience would leave me. At the same time, people are like, you need to have 1,000 words on a page, or 3 or 4 or 10 paragraphs on a page and explain everything. I'm not going to write that. I value my readers' time. I know they know when I say AI overview that they know what that means. I don't have to explain what an AI overview is to them. But if I write that same article maybe on a more generic magazine, if I write on Wired or Forbes, or it's a generic website that maybe the audience isn't as savvy, I probably have to go through what Google is, what AI overviews are, why Google created them, and then go into maybe a more specific topic. So I think a lot of it has to do with who you're writing to. And the problem with a lot of SEO written content is maybe you're being hired to write on a website for a client, and maybe they don't know who their audience is, or maybe it's a new website, you're not really sure. I think you need to figure out over time who your audience is and appeal to that audience, because I think Google needs to figure out, it's kind of fluffy, but I say this all the time. If a Google search engineer is trying to find something and they know a website that's really good at it, and that website's not ranking in the search results, that Google engineer is going to bring it to the attention of the team, and they're going to make sure it works. So if my website doesn't rank well for certain types of queries around Google, maybe, or SEO, maybe a Google engineer will be like, why is Barry's content not ranking well? He's been writing for 20 plus years. And they might go ahead and have to adjust the algorithms to say, this is embarrassing for us. Like right now, everybody's mocking Google because Reddit ranks for everything, or Forbes ranks for everything. And the quality level, although maybe it gives you that personalized, more intimate experience from social media that Google says is so important, but ultimately maybe it might be dangerous content. I think Google will have to really seriously look to say, are these queries better answered by Reddit, by Forbes, or by somebody who's been covering the space for 20 years, or somebody who's really there's up and coming people constantly in our space, in their community, or writing amazing stuff who really get it well. I've interviewed so many people that have been in the space for maybe 12 months, and they just really understand SEO so well. Not everybody does that. Some people really get it. And I think Google is going to reward those people that really connect with their audiences. How they do that, they'll have to figure it out. They're a smart company. But I think quality is really dependent on the audience.
Yeah. So would it be correct to say that quality is all about create value for your audience, like writing interesting stuff for your audience?
Writing interesting stuff for your audience is important. I don't know if it's necessarily, value is, there's definitely some type of value there, but how you define value, it's how you define it. And I think it's
all about the
definition, will define it for you. Your audience has to really define it for you. And what I might write on one website, I write differently on Search Engine Land than I write on Search Engine Roundtable. It's a slightly different audience. And again, if I were to write an article for you, and the way I'm answering these questions, I probably would answer them differently for the XMX audience. And I wouldn't answer them in such detail if I was writing a blog post on Search Engine Roundtable. So it really depends on how you appeal to how you're talking to the audience, I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a wide question. And I think we have another wide question, but I love to have your opinion about that. Which best practices and tips for implementing a successful SEO strategy in 2025? Maybe that's a 4-hour conference to answer that question. But yeah, if you can give us some tips, I think the audience would love that.
Oh, yeah, 2025. So don't do like rewrite articles and say, this is the version of it for 20. Don't take your 2024 articles and make 2025 articles. I think a lot of SEOs think about SEO in terms of, these are the steps I need to take. These are the things I need to implement. I think it's less about, obviously, you have to make sure your websites are crawlable, that Google can index them, they're fast enough that Google crawl them. You have the proper technical SEO. Assuming technical SEO is not a problem, and with most platforms these days, back in early 2000, you would build a website, every page would be on the same URL. Believe it or not, every session IDs. I don't know if you remember, there was no way for Google to crawl, or any search engine to properly crawl websites. But now that's not an issue. CMS platforms all are basically search engine friendly. Of course, you can find some problems with pagination and so forth. But let's assume technical SEO is not an issue, which for most people it really isn't. I think it's less about looking for tricks, like how can I use AI to better my SEO, I think it's really about the content. And sometimes SEOs might not be the best person to write that content. It might be your client. It might be the person who really understands that topic well. And maybe they can't write, so maybe you have to interview them and so forth. So I think there's no specific tips for implementing successful SEO strategies. I think it's more about it's writing the content that connects with your audience. And how, again, because technically, add H1 tags. I could give you a whole list of like best practices, but you can get that from reading, just Googling this question and sticking it into ChatGPT or into Google. So again, I don't want to give any specific. There's thousands of specific technical SEO things you should be doing on a day-to-day basis, which most SEO platforms handle. If they're not, then it's your job as an SEO to make sure they do. But outside of that, the hardest thing right now is building content that Google should rank, even if they're not.
Yeah. Again, quality for your audience, and quality is not the same thing for each and every audience. Interesting. Thanks. Let's jump into the AI topic, and I think we have many questions about that. What's your take on search engines based on AI, such as SearchGPT, maybe Perplexity, lots of them, and the concerns with intellectual property? I think that's a huge topic. Yeah, I'd love to have your opinion on that.
Yeah, so I think we covered the topic of, should Google be nervous about them, or is Google nervous about them? Yes, they are. Yes, they should be concerned about them. But I don't think it's going to have I don't think it's going to have as big of an impact than the Department of Justice rulings, as a monopoly ruling. That being said, we discussed that. Let's talk about publishers and stolen content. So yeah, it's a huge issue. I think just this morning, the Wall Street Journal issued a cease and desist for Perplexity because they're not respecting the robust TXT rules. I think Google's being sneaky about how they're sourcing AI content in their AI overviews without giving you a way to control AI overviews versus general search. I think there needs to be more granular level controls for how search engines and AI search engines access your content and use your content specifically for their tools, be it ChatGPT or SearchGPT, being Perplexity, Google Search versus Google AI Overviews, Bing versus Copilot, and so forth. So I think there needs to be better controls from these search engines for publishers. That being said, personally, I couldn't care less if Google AI, Gemini, ChatGPT, SearchGPT, Perplexity takes my content and doesn't credit me. I don't care, because honestly, I do this for a hobby. I make money other ways. I build software. I build AI stuff. And I just want the right content to get out there. If people are questioning things about SEO or whatever, I don't mind if they take my stuff and don't source me, as long as it's producing quality content. I'm a weird person, and you can't monetize that really. But I do think that Google and Bing specifically do stay. They say it a lot. They care about the publisher. We want to link to the publisher. They talk about it all the time. I think they'll figure out a way to do so, because if you think about it, the only way these Google and Bing make money, like almost 90% of Google's income is ads. And the only way that Google makes money, like I think 80-point-something% of their income are search ads, and then YouTube ads and so forth. But they make their money by people clicking on ads. And if nobody's going to be clicking on these AI results, AI answers, they're not going to be making money. So Google needs to figure out a way to get people to click. If they can figure out people where they click on ads, they hopefully will figure out a way for people to click on organic results, because ultimately the people don't want to click on just ads. People want to click on organic free results because they trust them more.
Yeah.
Whereas
I think that's
something that Justice that says the opposite. So I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to keep in mind all the time. The Google business model is all about ads. As you said, more than 80% of their revenue is coming from ads. And so they need clicks. Thanks, Barry, for reminding us that that's a huge part. And we are in the AI topic. So let's switch to something of importance for, I would say, every brand on the internet. How, as more companies experiment with AI-generated content, how do you think Google will handle the quality and originality of AI-written content moving forward? Again, a huge topic. Everybody's asking that question. So yeah, what do you have your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm surprised by Google's statements about we don't care if it's written by AI or not. But Google, it's funny, I spoke to Danny Sullivan, the Google search liaison, about this, and he's like, people misunderstood our message. He's like, it's not about like, we don't care if AI writes it or not. We don't care if AI writes it or not. We're basically giving a warning don't use AI or other programmatic SEO or people who are sitting there that you hire in whatever to sit there and just create tons of content. We're warning you not to generate content in mass, in automated ways, to flood our search engines and to try to manipulate us. And that's Google's warning with this. Again, if you're using AI as a writer to help you expand your topic, write better content, go ahead and do it. But if you're using it in a way to automate content generation to manipulate Google search, Google's going to figure out a way to go after them. We've seen examples of sites that were doing this over the past year or two. They did really, really well, made a lot of money, and then Google hit that hard. And there'll be more examples of this. It's not we used to call this back in the day a churn and burn, where you build out these websites quickly, Google then finds them and smashes them, and then you do it again. You just keep building these websites that just spam Google. Google knocks it off, and you just keep going through that process. That's what this strategy will be in the long term, because Google will figure it out, I think, in the long term. But for now, it's not about if content is generated using or help generating using AI. It's about the intent, and if you're doing this in a way to go ahead and like automatically spam Google.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think it's really helpful for all of us. We talked a lot about content, but SEO is not all about content. So let's talk a little bit about netlinking. And you've been in this space for 20 plus years, so I'm sure you know a lot about netlinking. So question from Florence, how do you see netlinking strategies evolving in the face of Google's recent algorithm changes? And what do you think would be the ideal balance between quantity and quality of backlinks in a sustainable and effective SEO strategy? $1 million question, I think.
Yeah, links used to be so much more valuable than they are. I mean, Google said that, but even without Google saying that, I mean, it seems a lot less valuable. Back in the old days, one good example, for probably the first 10, maybe 15 years of Google search, if you did a search for the term click here in Google search, what was the number one result for click here back in the old days? Take a guess.
I
Guess?
Yeah.
I'll give you a count of 10. Just throw out an idea. What do you think ranked number one for the term click here in Google search?
Don't be shy, guys.
All right, I'm going to just say it. It was Adobe PDF Reader, because everybody who back in the old days embedded PDFs on their website, which was a lot, said, click here to download Adobe Reader. That was the number one ranked result for the term click here, because it had tons of links pointing with the anchor text click here. That's no longer the case. Google obviously adjusting their algorithms and so forth. It's no longer, back in the old days, anybody could just go ahead and throw a ton of links at anything and rank well for that term without even having much content. That's no longer the case. Of course, links help a lot. I'm not saying links are dead. It's core to the Google PageRank algorithm, but I think there's so many more variables that come into play now, and I think links are weighted a lot less than now than they were definitely 15 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, I think it's still important, but I don't think it's as important. And quantity is definitely not as important as quality, never has been. But I think links in overall are just not as important as they used to be.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about SEA. I know you're the SEO expert, but I think the cousins, let's say, and the main revenue stream from Google is also important to have in mind. If you don't have anything to say about it, let us know, but I'm sure you do. Do you think there will be SEA on generative AI, which would allow AI to highlight particular content paid for by these ads? That makes sense.
Think there'll be SEOs doing doing SEO for AI engines? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe Clément, do you want to say a word to be a bit more specific on your question?
And just in summary, SEOs have adapted many, many times over the years. It used to be just the 10 blue traditional links. Then Google started what's called universal search in like 2007, I think, 2006. And SEOs had to then optimize for images, videos, Google Shopping, Frugal back then. I mean, wherever people are searching, SEOs will be there optimizing for it. So if people are on ChatGPT finding stuff, if people are on Search GPT, if people are on Perplexity, if people are on AI overviews or Copilot, SEOs will be there finding a way for their clients to get a mention in that space and finding ways to monetize that somehow. So yes, I think we'll adapt and we'll be doing, I think it's search engine AI. I'm not sure what what's the SEA stand for? Search engine AI?
Ads, I would say.
Will there be ads? Yeah, so there'll definitely be ads. And Google just announced AI overviews will have ads and they're rolling out. I haven't seen them yet, more in shopping stuff. Copilot has ads. I assume Search GPT will have ads. I assume Perplexity will have ads at some point. So yeah.
Yeah. When you think of Perplexity and you have all those affiliate links, you can see where they will be at in maybe a few months. Okay. Again, about content and a little bit about AI. So here we have a specific question. With the immense amount of content today, how can a small company on a tight marketing budget stand out through organic search engine results? It's maybe a strategy question, but yeah, everybody's not Johnson & Johnson, everybody's not Amazon, everybody's not Walmart. So yeah, a word for the SMBs here.
Yeah, so my advice, like I'm not Walmart, I produce probably more content than most people. My advice is have a routine. I spend every morning, usually between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m., sometimes 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., usually about an hour to 2 every morning before everybody wakes, before the typical person wakes up, to write content. I could produce about 10 pieces of content a day in that. Some of you might produce 1 or 2 pieces of content a day, but you don't have to do it daily. It depends on what your schedule is. And if you have a schedule, let's say you want to produce 2 pieces of content a week, then go ahead and put in your calendar, twice a week, you write content for 30 minutes to an hour. Just put it on your calendar. And I think if it's in part of your routine, you'll get it done. The schedule is up to you, how often you want to do it, but make sure it's a routine.
Yeah, so it's all about organization. Yeah, okay. Maybe we have time for one last question. And I think that's a wide question. I had that one here. That's, again, a question, a pretty wide question. If you could redesign the entire internet from scratch, what would you change to make it more user-friendly and beneficial for everyone? It's a bit of a philosophical question, but yeah, interesting.
Oh my God, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't even. That's a great question. I don't know. I'm not smart enough. If I had that idea, I probably would be sitting on some beach with cat, just counting all day long. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but maybe we can focus more on the SERP. Like, what would be an ideal SERP for you?
Less ads. I mean, it's simple. So 1 or 2 ads. Label them clearly in the old-fashioned yellow background. Have the traditional search results right below it. Put the features on the right-hand side. AI overview on the right-hand side. Shopping on the right-hand side. Other features to go on the right-hand side. Keep thinking. Right now, Google's mixing ads into organic results. They've been doing that for the past 6 months or so. I don't like the direction Google search is going. I think they need to better communicate what's what on the search results page. It used to be the complaint that people have with Microsoft with their little clippy thing. It's like, it's everywhere. We want to get rid of it. We don't want it popping up here and there. I think it's the same. Google's just way too confident in themselves. So I think dumbing down the search interface, making it much more compartmentalized, so people know what is ads, what are traditional search, what are AI overviews, what are search features, and keeping that there. I think that's important.
Yeah, it can be a bit tricky sometimes to know if you're clicking on ads or not, if you're not an internet expert. Maybe one last question, and I think it's like a question that will be easy to answer to you because you've been interviewed in so many podcasts. Which SEO podcasts would you recommend to keep up to date with what's happening in the community?
I'm gonna get in trouble if I don't name the right people.
Name the right ones.
So every day I have a newsletter on Search Engine Roundtable, which includes all the headlines that I read that day. It includes podcasts that I listened to that day as well. So every day it might be a different podcast, might be a new podcast and so forth. So hopefully you subscribe to that, or you just read it on the website and search the Roundtable, and you'll see those there. But I mean, some of my personal favorites, Greg Finn's Marketing O'Clock, with that team there. It's great especially for paid search people. On the organic side, I really enjoy Syrups Up podcast. Morty's on like 100 podcasts, Morty Oberstein. So he's good. There's just so many, I feel bad naming them all. There's Google has their own, there's so many. I mean, if you Google SEO podcasts, you'll probably find tons. I'm missing a ton, so I apologize, but there's literally so many out there that are good to listen to. I tend not to listen to many SEO podcasts. I even have my own, which I didn't mention. Every Friday I produce a weekly video where I recap all this big search news in about 10 minutes on YouTube and on Spotify. So you just follow on youtube.com/RustyBrick. I really sum up everything that's important in about 10 minutes. So some podcasts go on for hours. I don't do that. We also have a daily quick podcast, which I do with Crystal Carter, Morty Oberstein, and Greg Finn as well, where I sum up the news on a daily basis. But if you have to catch up everything in a week, I would recommend my Friday video if you like listening or watching videos. I try to cover everything really, really quickly. I'm told people actually slow it down. Most people speed up videos. I'm told people actually slow down my videos so they can listen to what I'm saying because I talk so fast. What's the newsletter? It's just go to SE Roundtable, seroundtable.com. You'll see it's the search recap, which you'll see published daily around 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, I think we SEO have so many things to do basically on a daily basis that having a 10-minute recap to know everything that is important is a good way to stay focused yet informed. Thanks for sharing that. I think we need to conclude. So I will just close this down. I don't know how to do it. Here it is, just the two of us. Yeah, maybe I will stay here. Yeah, thank you for SMG team for that. Do you want to say a word as a conclusion, Barry?
No, I'm just asking, should I head out? Or should I hit the minus sign?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Do you want to say a word before we end up this session? As a conclusion.
No, again, the community is super valuable. I think if everybody, hopefully you're getting something out of this and other content on the web, but make sure that you give back and you produce content for people. If you want, I'll be happy to add it to my newsletter. I love finding new sources, so just ping me on any social network at RustyBrick, and I will I'll subscribe to your blog or your podcast or whatever, and I'll make sure to include it in our newsletter, because I think sharing helps the SEO community. The more we share, the more we benefit from each other. So definitely share and keep sharing.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks for sharing your experience and expertise. It's been great to have you here. If you have any question, feel free to reach out to Barry. I think he's pretty, you can go to him and he will do everything he can, if he can help. If you have any question related to SEMG, go to our team. It was the last session of the day. For the English-speaking people here, we're going to have another session with Neil Patel tomorrow, same time as Barry. And for the French-speaking people, I'm going to switch to French right now. So Barry, if you want to say a word before ending us this session, and so I can switch to French. Thanks again for being here. It was an amazing session. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see ya. Donc, en français cette fois, merci beaucoup. Vous avez été extrêmement nombreux. On est très, très fiers. Donc, merci beaucoup pour votre présence. Vous êtes encore 700 là, donc c'est énorme. On a eu 5000 personnes enregistrées, plusieurs milliers de personnes au total sur les différentes conférences. Donc, un grand merci à vous pour votre présence. La communauté, comme le disait Barry, est vraiment très belle. Merci beaucoup. On se voit demain avec une conférence de Karine Abou. Donc, vous connaissez certainement Karine Abou. Si vous ne la connaissez pas, venez parce que c'est vraiment quelqu'un qui a une expertise hyper intéressante au sujet de tout ce qui traite autour du contenu. Et forcément, on va parler d'IA. Donc là, venez 9h15 avec un café dans la main, stratégie de contenu à l'ère de l'IA générative, cette tendance pour performer en 2025. Donc il y avait des questions sur comment performer en 2025. C'est maintenant. Merci beaucoup. On se